Leon, a computer engineering student at a prominent university, develops a slight fever shortly before returning for his junior year. Upon visiting his local pharmacy, he is greeted by Dr. Longsten, an eccentric and young physician. Dr. Longsten provides Leon with a newly marketed drug called Meclatin free of charge. Leon is skeptical. Over the weekend, Leon slowly transforms and de-ages from his 20-year-old self into a 15-year-old girl. Upon returning to the pharmacy, Leon discovers that he was given a prototype drug sponsored by the government that was supposed to increase his natural reflexes and thinking capabilities. The drug has ended up being a failure, and the 1,000 test subjects across the United States exhibited various effects such as Leon becoming younger and swapping genders. From here, Leon is forced by Dr. Longsten, who now prefers to go by the name Lewis, to attend an all-girls school in order to further observe the changes that Leon, now called Leona, has and is now going through. Plans. Right now, I have quite a few chapters in mind. The first chapter, as you can tell from the title, is about Leona before she became Leona. The second chapter is about Leon transforming into Leona. The third is about Leona confronting Dr. Longsten. After these chapters, the setting will switch to Leona's new school and will focus on Leona's adventures as she makes new friends and adjusts, or not, to her new life. I'm writing this from a manga perspective, so if some of the humor seems a little weird, it's because I'm writing it with the overdramatic characters in mind. Author's notes: this is a story I would really like to be written as a manga. Honestly, that's what my final goal for this is. Unfortunately, my artistic skills are severely lacking. I can't begin to describe how bad my drawings are, and because of that my dream of creating a manga of any kind, printed or web-based, will probably not happen. Since I still liked my general idea for the story, I decided to write it in story format. After all, if I ever get good enough at drawing, it will be easier to convert a well-written, at least I hope it is, story into a simple dialogue than the other way around. As for the actual content, Leon's character is based on myself, a little. The tennis facts actually came from my high school record as well as the attitude toward becoming healthier. Leon's appearance. In the story, I never actually describe Leon's appearance before he changes into Leona. In short, he is roughly 5 foot 11 inches, just shy of 6 feet. He has golden blonde hair and has been keeping a slight goatee, which is brown in color, on his chin. He does not wear glasses, sorry to disappoint any glasses fans. Although he isn't incredibly muscular, Leon's body is pretty healthy. He has broad shoulders and hazel-colored eyes. Chapter 1, Leon. It was another sweltering day at home for Leon. He wiped his brow as sweat began to trickle down his forehead. One would think that an upcoming junior in computer engineering and computer science would be attending an internship during his summer. However, with the United States economy being in such rough shape, Leon had been unable to find any company willing to hire him. With nothing else to occupy his summer, Leon had returned home. Of course, for Leon, the out-of-state college student, returning home meant a long 10-hour drive. Still, he was glad to be back where he had grown up. Although his hometown was not very big, it was bustling with activity, and it was entertaining for him to see what sort of changes had occurred after his second year at college. "This heat is really something," said Leon as he continued his jog around the neighborhood. "I've known this state to produce some crazy weather, but with a temperature of 96 degrees Fahrenheit and a humidity level of 90%, this is ridiculous." After his first year attending his university, Leon had gained a little too much weight. After returning home that summer, he had been committed to shaping up his body. This summer, Leon was determined to continue improving himself and had decided to follow a daily schedule of jogging. Of course, Leon was never a slacker when it came to athletics. He had been team captain for his school's tennis team his senior year of high school and had managed to attend the state competition each year since his freshman year in high school. Since he graduated, Leon had continued to practice the sport when he attended his university. Unfortunately, due to the amount of work required for a degree in computer engineering and later computer science, his second major, and the additional work needed to stay an honors student, Leon was unable to pursue tennis in the club or varsity level. Since then, during each break, Leon would be obsessed with playing tennis as much as he could. As Leon finished his jog for the day, he pulled out his cell phone and began searching through his list of contacts. "Let's see," muttered Leon to himself. "Josh is out of town this week, Blaine and George are attending summer classes this year, and Emily has been busy with her boyfriend." He sighed to himself. Leon had been having difficulties finding someone to play tennis with this summer. Most of his friends from high school were busy with other things and Leon had been forced to spend more time purely exercising than playing tennis. "Shoot, I guess I'll just go hit against the practice wall today," Leon growled. He had never been a fan of playing solo, especially when the local wall used to practice tennis was known to cause players to get heat stroke. Furthermore, Leon had already been suffering from a slight fever, but because of his stubbornness he had refused to skip today's exercise routine. "I'll just spend an hour hitting against the wall and then be done for today," Leon said to himself. After pulling up to the local tennis courts in his car, Leon reached to the seat behind him to grab his tennis racket. With his tennis bag over his shoulder, he left his car and began walking down the hill towards the practice wall. As the time passed during Leon's practice, his vision began to get blurry. Putting a hand to his face, Leon muttered to himself, "Shoot. This is turning out to be a mistake. I think I had better call it early today." Soon after, Leon had packed his gear and gotten back into his car. "I still can't see very well," said Leon. "I had better wait a few minutes before I head home." While attempting to allow himself to recover, Leon felt himself getting dizzy. "This isn't good. I think my fever is getting worse." Knowing that he had used the last of his aspirin at home, Leon decided to drive himself to the pharmaceutical building that had recently opened a few weeks before he had returned home. It was closer than his house and he knew that he had to do something about his fever. Upon arriving in front of the building, Leon felt himself shiver, a sign that his fever was still present. Walking through the entrance, he looked around the store for the drug aisle that would have something like aspirin. Finally spotting it, he walked over and examined the different medicine on the shelves. Looking at the prices, Leon realized that he didn't have any money with him. "Damn it! I forgot that I needed to go to the bank today," Leon half shouted to himself. Peering into his wallet, he remembered that he had also loaned his credit card to his father earlier that week. "Shoot! What am I going to do now?" he said frustratedly. "Can I help you with something?" Leon looked over to find a young man, who he guessed was in his mid-20s, wearing a white lab coat. He had jet black hair that was slicked back and was wearing a pair of circular sunglasses that obscured his eyes. "I'm one of the pharmacists on duty here," the man said as he ran his hand through his hair. "If you're having a hard time selecting some medication, I can help you." "Well, you see," Leon began, "I forgot that I didn't have any money with me today. I'll just have to come back later." The young pharmacist frowned. He then walked past Leon towards the pharmaceutical section of the store and motioned for Leon to follow. When they arrived, the pharmacist walked behind the counter and told Leon to wait for a few minutes. Upon returning, the man had a small, clear capsule in his hand. Leon attempted to repeat himself about not having any money, but the man held up his hand. "This is a new drug in the market. Its name is Meclatin. If you're up for it, I'm willing to give this to you for free. Leon thought to himself for a minute. Why would there be a drug like this that was free? In fact, why would anything in this entire store be free? Something isn't right about this. Leon decided that he was going to pass on the drug and started to tell the pharmacist this when he suddenly became dizzy and was forced to his knees. The pharmacist ran around from the corner and helped Leon back up to his feet. You really need to take something, and this is the only medicine I can give you without a fee, the pharmacist said calmly. Leon looked at the man for a moment and then agreed to take the medicine. Good. You'll need to make sure you lie down for a few hours when you get home, he said. This should be quick acting to help with your fever, but it will make you drowsy later. The pharmacist then handed Leon a few pills from the container along with a glass of water. As Leon swallowed the pills, he made a mental note to look up the medicine on the internet when he got home. Within a few minutes, Leon was already beginning to feel better. As he began to leave the store, the pharmacist walked over to him. Here's my card. If you have any problems, you can reach me using that number. Leon glanced at the card and saw that the pharmacist was named Dr. Longsten. Well, Dr. Longsten, thank you for the medicine. I'll be sure to call you if I have any problems. And with that, Leon headed outside the building, got in his car, and drove home. Chapter 2, I'm a Girl? Dr. Longsten had been right when he said that Leon would become drowsy later. Nearly 4 hours had passed since he had fallen asleep on his couch that Friday afternoon. As Leon got up, he felt that something was a little different. Assuming that this was just the after effect of the fever and medicine, he walked over to the kitchen in order to get some water. As he reached into a cabinet for a glass to use, Leon thought to himself that it seemed a little farther away than usual. Of course, the fact that his hair was getting in his eyes didn't make it any easier. He remarked about how he would need to get a haircut scheduled for next week. With the glass finally in hand, Leon moved over to fill it with water. As he did so, he noticed that his shirt felt a little tighter than before. That's odd. I know that I usually wear tight-fitting shirts when I work out, but I don't remember having one this tight. Taking a sip of water, Leon walked downstairs and heading into his study room. As he sat down in front of his computer, he began to think about the medicine he had taken. Let's see, Leon said to himself, what was the name of that drug I took? Meclatin? Leon typed the name into the search engine and waited for the results to appear. What he got in response was a message saying that there were no matching documents. What the hell? There's no way that guy gave me a drug that hasn't been released. Maybe I misspelled it. Leon attempted several other variations of the name with no improvement in the results. This isn't a good sign, Leon thought to himself. I should call Dr. Longsten and ask him to tell me more about this drug. Leon dialed the number on the card and waited to hear a ring. Instead, the phone immediately came back saying that the number was no longer in service. Leon swore as he dialed the number again only to hear the same message. Shoot. It looks like I'm going to have to drive back there and get some answers directly. Looking at his clock, Leon realized that the store was closed for the day. I'll have to wait until tomorrow. I sure hope that this doesn't cause me any problems. The next day, Leon woke up to the sound of someone banging on his bedroom door. Turn off that alarm. It's been making noise for over 3 hours. It was Leon's mom. She had never been a morning person, and Leon's clock had a very loud, obnoxious alarm. Leon was slowly getting to his feet when he thought about what she had said. 3 hours? He looked over at his clock. It read back 12:18 p.m. Suddenly in a frenzy, Leon struggled to turn off his alarm and, in the process, knocked his clock off the bedside desk. How did I sleep through my alarm for 3 hours? Leon screamed. He was normally very punctual when it came to getting up with his alarm. It must be from that damned medicine I took. I've already wasted a good portion of my day. Bending over to pick up his clock, Leon felt himself getting dizzy. What? Why am I getting dizzy? I took that medicine to get rid of the dizziness. Leon cursed again and pushed his hair out of his eyes. Since when was it this long, anyway? And it looks blonder than it used to be. Moving over to the mirror in his room, Leon realized that his hair was much longer than he remembered. I definitely remember my hair not being this long. It's down to my shoulders. Leon continued to inspect himself in the mirror. His shoulders seemed slimmer than they used to be and his hips seemed a little wider. The goatee he had been growing was gone. Leon muttered as he felt himself growing dizzier. He turned back to his bed as he felt himself black out. When Leon awoke, he found himself sprawled on top of his bed. Looking around quickly, he saw that his bedroom door remained locked. He then looked at his clock and saw that it was Sunday. I slept for a whole, he started to exclaim, and until he suddenly started coughing. What cough the hell? My throat is burning. As Leon started to become more awake, he realized that it wasn't just his throat that was burning, his entire body was on fire, especially his chest and privates. Growing nervous, Leon looked at his mirror to see if his throat looked red. What he saw terrified him. His hair was now down past his shoulders to about halfway down his back. His face, which no longer had the goatee, appeared smooth and his jaw was more curved than before. His eyelashes were longer and his hair was completely blonde. His shoulders were much slimmer than what he saw before. Of course, what bothered him the most was his chest. He could see 2 small bumps protruding from his shirt. Are you going to church today? Leon's mother asked from the other side of the door. He began to panic. There was definitely something wrong with him and he was afraid of what would happen if his parents noticed. Leon remained silent, hoping that his mother would leave soon. What was happening to him? There was no way that any medicine should be causing effects like these. Leon sighed with relief as he heard his mother walk away from his door. Leon began to calm down and focused on his predicament. I just need to wait this out. The pharmacy is closed on Sundays, so I just need to stay out of sight until tomorrow. With that in mind, he decided to wait until his parents had left for church to get some food. Shortly later, he heard the familiar sound of his parents' cars leaving the house. Leon arose from his bed and felt himself become unsteady. He began coughing once again. This is ridiculous. I need to quickly grab something from our pantry before I collapse again. After making his way to the kitchen, Leon quickly grabbed a bag of potato chips and some other junk food. This may not be very healthy, but I won't have to worry about it sitting out in the open later. Leon then made his way to the next room that housed his family's printer and picked up a sheet of printer paper. I'll need to write some sort of note to keep my parents from bothering me today. As he thought about it, Leon decided that leaving a note saying that he was sick and needed uninterrupted sleep was the simplest and most likely way to keep his parents from seeing him. They respected his privacy and he knew that, if he asked them not to bother him, they would listen. Having gathered everything he needed, Leon headed back to his room and placed the note on his door. Now, I just need to have some patience, Leon reminded himself. He closed and locked his bedroom door and plopped himself back onto his bed. What I don't understand is why Dr. Longston's phone would no longer be in service. Didn't he just tell me Friday to call him if I had any problems? While still thinking about his situation, Leon felt himself getting sleepy. You're kidding me. I've already slept so much. Why is it that I'm getting tired again? Unable to fight off the drowsiness, Leon quickly fell asleep on top of his bed. Chapter 3, The Meeting with Dr. Longston. When he awoke next, Leon felt incredibly refreshed. He looked over at his clock and saw that it was now Monday. In fact, it was already 11 a.m. Alarmed at how he had slept through another entire day, he jumped to his feet and was surprised to find himself not experiencing any dizziness like the day before. However, one glance in his mirror crushed any hope he had of the ordeal being over. He looked like a 15-year-old girl. His face's complexion had entirely cleared up and his skin was smooth and white. His hair had not grown much longer but had instead become smoother and softer and remained as blonde as the day before. His arms and legs were thinner and his waist was smaller. His hands had also shrunk and the calluses on his hands from playing tennis had disappeared. His clothes that he had been wearing, an undershirt and a pair of boxers, were now too loose and he had to hold onto them to prevent them from falling off. How can I look like a girl? Leon screamed. I have to go see Dr. Longston now. Having said that, he began to rummage through his dresser. Near the bottom, he found a set of tennis clothes that he had procrastinated in throwing away. The top was a sleeveless, white t-shirt with a tennis ball on it and the bottom was a pair of blue, elastic tennis shorts. These should be a better fit, I think. Leon, not wanting to see what his body looked like naked, began to put the clothes on over his now oversized undershirt and boxers. Luckily for him, the clothes fit. In fact, the shirt may have been a little too tight as the bumps on his chest, which were notably bigger, felt somewhat restricted. I need to do something about this hair, Leon thought to himself. Looking around, he grabbed one of his tennis hats from his closet and attempted to force his hair into a wad. Even though I look like a girl, if I can hide this hair, I might be able to get away from my parents without them noticing. With that, Leon grabbed his keys and wallet and made a dash for his car. Fortunately for him, both of his parents had already left the house. A short drive later and Leon found himself back outside the pharmacy. Driving was tougher than I thought. These changes are throwing off my balance, Leon muttered. As he made his way into the store, he looked around for Dr. Longston. Almost too easily, Leon spotted him near the back of the store where he had given Leon that medicine. You! Leon angrily shouted. What have you done to me? Dr. Longston looked up and grinned. Ah, you're back. I'm surprised you didn't come back earlier, happily replied Dr. Longston. You really should have called me when the changes started to take place. Then again, I wasn't expecting something like this. It looks like there's another new scenario to document. Growing confused, Leon shook his head and tried to focus on what he wanted to say. What the hell did you give me? My body looks like a teenage girl. Leon yelled. And what do you mean I should have called you? I tried calling you Friday night. Dr. Longston looked at Leon for a moment and then stood up. That's odd, he said as he scratched his head. I should have received your call if you had. He then stopped and a slight sign of annoyance appeared on his face. Renee! Get out here! Almost immediately, a girl who looked to be about 14 with short, brown hair and a cute, girlish face appeared from underneath the counter. Both Leon and Dr. Longston jumped with surprise. Where did you come from? Dr. Longston asked. Renee looked up at Dr. Longston and happily said, I've been down here the whole time." While Leon thought it was odd for the girl to be hanging underneath a counter, he felt it was even stranger that the pharmacist would not have noticed her being there. Of course, he didn't mention either of these thoughts to the two standing in front of him. "Rennie, did you use my phone?" Dr. Long's 10 asked in a serious tone. "You know I've told you not to use it without my permission." "I didn't use it," Rennie quickly replied. "Oh, well, do you know where Dr. Long's 10 began before he was interrupted by Rennie?" "I threw it off a building," she said happily. While Leon found this conversation a little funny, he didn't want to get sidetracked any longer. Before Dr. Long's 10 had a chance to reply to Rennie, Leon butted in saying, "Look, I just want you to turn me back to normal. I don't know what the hell you gave me, but you should be able to reverse it, right?" There was a moment of silence as both Dr. Long's 10 and Rennie looked at Leon and then each other. Suddenly, they both burst out into laughter. "This is serious," Leon snapped at them. "The only part of me left is my voice. I demand that you chow." In mid-sentence, Leon began to have another coughing fit. Leon tried to calm himself down. "Don't panic, it doesn't last that long." However, the coughing continued far past what Leon was used to. Both Dr. Long's 10 and Rennie were watching him, their faces expressionless. "Help me," Leon said meekly as he tried to control the coughing. Dr. Long's 10 moved over next to Leon, who now had his hands over his mouth in a futile attempt to stop the fit. "Don't worry, Leon," Dr. Long's 10 said softly. "This is just the last stage in your mutation, I think." Leon wasn't happy when he heard the man's uncertainty. Well, he wasn't happy about anything Dr. Long's 10 had said. And how did Dr. Long's 10 know his name? Leon didn't remember mentioning it to him. His thoughts went back to Dr. Longston's last comment. What else could be taken from him? Then Leon's eyes widened. "Not my voice," Leon whispered in between coughs. "I won't have anything left if I lose my voice." Leon's head was pounding as he tried to stand. He had to do something. He couldn't let the last piece of his identity disappear. However, Leon's resistance quickly disappeared as he felt himself falling and then blacked out. Chapter 4, Leon, Meet Leona. When Leon woke up this time, he found himself tucked into a bed. Noticing he was awake, Leon was greeted by Rennie. "Good morning, sleepy head," she exclaimed cheerfully. "How are you feeling?" Leon didn't answer as he looked around the room. There wasn't much to say about it. It was entirely white. The bed, the sheets, the walls, the floor, the list could go on indefinitely. "Well, aren't you going to answer me?" Rennie asked, tilting her head to the side. Leon gave her a glare. She knew that his voice had most likely changed and was teasing him. At least, that's what Leon was thinking. He often makes misjudgments when it comes to someone else's intentions. He didn't want to think about what had happened to him. All he wanted was to hear Dr. Longston agree to change him back to his normal, 20-year-old, male self. A knock came from the only door in the room. Dr. Longston walked into the room, holding a capsule that looked similar to the one that had contained the drug Leon had taken, Meclotin. He eyed it wearily as Dr. Longston walked over and sat down on the bed. "Will that change me back?" Leon winced as he heard his voice. It was much higher and girlier than his male voice. He tried not to think about it. Dr. Longston was going to turn him back soon and he would be okay. "No, this will not change you back," Dr. Long's 10 said in a calm, gentle voice. This is to help stabilize your mutation. Leon's heart sank. Help stabilize this change? Why would he want that to happen? Maybe the doctor didn't hear him correctly. Wait, Leon winced again as he heard his voice. I don't want to be like this. I want to turn back to normal. Dr. Long's 10, you have to turn me back to normal. Leon felt himself getting angry. He knew that tears were starting to appear in his eyes and struggled to hold them back. Dr. Long's 10 sighed. First of all, you don't have to call me Dr. Long's 10, he said slowly. You can call me by my first name, Louis. Leon looked at him. He didn't care about what the man wanted to be called. He wanted to be turned back to normal. Second of all, you can't be turned back to normal, Louis said while looking at Leon intently. The drug you took, Meclotin, wasn't for a fever or any other disease. At least, that wasn't its designed purpose. It was created to forcibly open more of the brain's power to the conscious mind. What the hell was he talking about? Leon didn't care about this stuff. As I'm sure you've heard before, humans only use 10% of their brain in their daily lives. Well, that isn't to say that we don't use all of our brain, it just means that when we perform certain activities, we only use various sections of our brain. Louis paused as he thought about how to continue. The drug Meclotin was devised as an experiment to see what would happen if we could force a human to use anywhere from 10% to 80% of their brain when performing any task. That means, instead of using 10% of your brain power to pour a cup of coffee, the drug could be used to force you to use 50% of your brain power. Leon interrupted him. Look. Stop explaining this to me. I don't want to hear anything about this. Let's get back to the part where you said that you cannot turn me back to normal. Tears were now flowing down Leon's soft cheeks. He put a hand up to his face. Ha ha, he chuckled, this is a joke, right? You're just playing with me. You wouldn't do this to someone and not have some way to turn. Leon couldn't finish his sentence. This wasn't like him. Even in the face of something like this, he wouldn't break down into tears. He would calmly analyze the situation. After all, that's what had made him do so well in school, in sports, in, well, pretty much everything. Now, he couldn't seem to think straight. Leon pulled his legs up close to him and buried his head between them, sobbing softly. This was too much. He couldn't handle the stress from this. Suddenly, he felt something soft and warm wrap around him. He looked up to see Renee giving him a tight hug. It's all right. Everything will be fine. You aren't alone, she said in a gentle, soothing voice. You need to listen to the rest of Louis's explanation. It's important. So, just try to calm down a little bit. I'll sit here beside you. She was a nice girl, Leon could see that. Still, there was no way that he could be expected to calm down. As he was thinking that, she hugged him tighter. For some reason, his anger was melting away. He just couldn't stay mad when the sweet girl was being so kind to him. Thank you, Renee, Louis said. Now, where was I? Oh yes, brain power. So, the drug was created in order to force humans to use a greater percentage of their brain when performing a task. The reason we limited it to 80% was that overusing the brain can cause too much stress on a person's mind. By our calculations, if someone were to use over 80% of their brain on a single task, important unconscious processes like involuntary breathing and beating of the heart might stop functioning. He took a break to take off his sunglasses and wipe them using the corner of his lab coat. Now, you might be wondering how this caused you to change into a girl, and to put it simply, he stated, I have no idea. Leon looked at Louis. He felt himself grinning. So, a drug you created turns me into a girl and you have no idea why it happened? That's right, Laos responded, nodding his head. The purpose of the drug was to improve your physical reflexes and logical capabilities by increasing the usage of your brain. Instead, you turned into a girl. I'm glad you're understanding this. He said it so plainly that Leon had a hard time taking him seriously. What the hell do you mean, I'm glad you're understanding this? Leon yelled angrily, hitting Louis on top of the head. It's not like this is that difficult to understand. What I want to know is why you can't turn me back. You created the drug. You should be able to create some sort of anti-drug. Louis and Renee looked at each other. Leon thought they were going to laugh again. You were a 20-year-old college student, Leon, he chuckled while pushing his sunglasses back up his nose. You should know that things aren't that simple, especially since I don't know what caused the drug to go wrong. Furthermore, I know for a fact that I couldn't reverse the effects of the drug, even if I did know what the cause was. Leon was thinking to himself. He had a lot of questions to ask Louis, and he didn't want to believe that there was no way for him to be turned back to normal. As he opened his mouth to voice this, Louis interrupted him. Now, before we go any further, you need to take these pills. Leon couldn't help but let out a laugh. You think I'm going to take more medicine from you? You're more of an idiot than I thought. Unfortunately, Louis didn't see the humor that Leon had seen. Renee, I'll hold him down and you force him to swallow the pills, Louis said coldly. Leon began to move, but was suddenly held down by Louis. He felt like he had lost all of his strength. While twisting his body in an attempt to break free, Renee bent herself over his head. He looked at her hands, trying to prepare himself for her next move, but was taken by surprise when she suddenly kissed him. He tried to resist, but his mind began to go blank. Her lips were so soft, so warm. Then, he felt the pills sliding down his throat. She had somehow transferred them from her mouth to his, and he had swallowed them without thinking. Annoyed, Louis looked over at Renee. I told you to force him to swallow the pills. You didn't have to kiss him. That was just a friendship kiss. Renee said, although you could tell she didn't mean it. Besides, it was the easiest way for me to get him to swallow. As she said this, she glanced over at Leon with a mischievous look. What did you just make me take? Leon asked with a slight fear in his voice. I can't believe you forced me to take another drug. You'll never get away with this. I report you to the newspapers. You and your entire company will be torn to shreds. Renee laughed as Louis said, I don't think we will have to worry about that. After all, the entire government is backing this operation. I doubt they'll let one of their test subjects blab about this to the press. Leon felt himself trembling. Anyway, the drug you just took does exactly what I told you before, it stabilizes your mutation. After all, changing genders chemically is very unstable. You're just lucky I was the one who was assigned to you. Wait. Assigned to me? Is that how you knew my name? But, what did you mean when you said that you were assigned to me? Leon asked, the fear in his voice rising. Wasn't you giving me that drug just a coincidence? Do you really think I would give a drug that could have such life-changing effects to just anyone? He snorted. You were one of 1,000 test subjects that your great government chose for this project. 1,000 test subjects? Does that mean you turned 1,000 people into teenage girls? Leon asked in disbelief. Don't be silly, Lewis answered. The other test subjects all exploded from what I heard. What? Leon was beside himself. Had he really taken such a dangerous drug? Sure, it had changed his body completely, but he had never thought that it could be lethal. I was just joking. Lewis quickly apologized. But you're the only test subject that turned into a girl from what I've been told. The others had worse effects. Some mutated into weird masses of flesh. Others went into a vegetable state. I think out of all of them, you may have had the best results. How does something that is supposed to increase brain usage even affect the body so drastically? Leon shouted. How bad can you guys be at doing your job if a drug designed to affect the brain ends up changing the physical bodies of all 1,000 test subjects instead? Leon was furious. He couldn't believe that such idiots had been in charge of such a dangerous medicine. Furthermore, he didn't want to even think about how the government that was supposed to be helping people like him had approved and even funded this drug. So, what would happen if I did try to go public with this information? Leon asked tentatively. Well, Lewis began as he scratched the back of his head, you would most likely be blacklisted and silenced before that happened. With that, Leon fell silent. So, he couldn't speak out about this injustice? Then, Leon began to think about what was going to happen to him in the future. Look, there has to be some way for me to turn back to normal. I can't stay a girl, especially not one that is 15. I've got to go back to college in a few more weeks. I have a lot of friends here and at college. They'll notice if I've turned into a girl. Leon was trying to think of every reason he could to turn back into his old self. I wasn't some good-for-nothing either. I was an honors student at a very respectable university. I was majoring in computer engineering and computer science. I was in the top 5% of my entire class. How can I return to my old life like this? You're ruining my life. Leon paused, waiting for a response from Lewis. There's a lot we need to talk about, it seems. Lewis then moved off of the bed and walked to the only table in the room. For now, I suggest you take a few minutes to rest and collect your thoughts. You shouldn't have any more fainting spells now that you've taken those pills. Leon could tell that he was avoiding the questions. I've already informed your parents about your situation and they've agreed to let you stay here for the next few days. If you think I'm staying here for another minute, you're crazy. I don't know what you told them, but it's not like I'm a child. I'm a 20-year-old man. Leon was getting angrier. I'm calling my parents right now. I need to let them know about this twisted test project that I've been involved in with my own words. Lewis turned around and looked at Leon with a worried expression. I wouldn't call them right now. I can't say that they are the most stable after hearing the news. Ignoring Lewis's warning, Leon pulled out his cell phone. He was surprised it hadn't been taken when he fainted. Waiting for one of his parents to pick up, he took the time to look around the room a little more. It really was entirely white. All of the furniture, the curtains hanging beside the window, and even the desk lamp. Finally, Leon heard the sound of his father answering the phone. Hey, Dad. Look, I know that you got a call from a strange doctor earlier and I wanted to Is this Leon? Leon's father sounded shaken. He tried telling his father not to worry, that the doctor was going to change him back and that he would be coming home soon. I'm sorry, son. You don't have to make up lies to try and comfort us. What was he talking about? Leon knew that there had to be some way to change back into his old self. His parents shouldn't have been convinced just by the doctor saying it was impossible. Look, you don't need to come back home for a little while. Leon was shocked. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. Your mother is very unstable right now. Heck, I'm not doing so well myself. We just need some time to think, okay? You've had experience being off on your own. You paid your way through your first 2 years of college, after all. Leon tried to say something, to say anything, but he just couldn't raise his voice. I'm sorry. We just can't handle this right now. The doctor already explained to us about how they would take care of you. Honestly, your mother and I talked about it and we think it's the best thing that can be done. So, for now, try and forget about us. With that, the phone call ended. Renee looked up into Leon's face and saw that it was flooded with tears. How could they abandon him like that? He knew that this was an odd situation, but just him turning into a girl, something that he was absolutely sure could be reversed, didn't mean that they had to freak out to the point of disowning him. Well, it seems you've gotten your answer from them. Lewis began. I have to tell you that they know a little more about the situation than you do. I was going to wait until you had calmed down some more, but it seems like now is the best time to explain. Leon looked up at him. Explain what? He had already been given the full explanation about what the drug was and that he was currently a girl. There shouldn't be anything else left. I noticed it in your conversation with your parents. You do remember that I said that you could not be returned to normal, right? Lewis looked frustrated as he ran one of his hands through his hair. Look, there is a bigger reason as to why I cannot turn you back to normal. It has to do with how the drug works. Leon suddenly found himself struggling to breath. He just had to be able to turn back to normal. Lewis was wrong. There had to be a way for him to return to his old self. The main reason why you will never be able to revert back to your 20-year-old self is because the drug is still in your system. Lewis was looking seriously at Leon, his sunglasses now lying on the table. In truth, the drug Meclatin was a mixture of chemicals and nanobots. The nanobots were programmed to initially use the chemicals we provided to act as a painkiller for your brain, so to speak. When we were in the design stages of this project, my colleagues and I agreed that the initial shock of using more than the normal amount of his or her brain could pose serious problems for a human. Because of that, the chemicals were supposed to provide a way for them to ease into using a higher percentage by removing the stress. I'm not going to explain how those chemicals work, but you should just understand that they were meant to prevent an immediate overload. Leon was worried now. Did you say that the medicine included nanobots? What the you've got to be kidding me? Nanotechnology is still way too far in the future. Leon said. And you think that transforming a 20-year-old male into a 15-year-old female is more realistic? Replied Lewis snappily. The truth is that your government has been hiding a lot from the public eye. Nanotechnology has progressed much more rapidly than you think, and it's because of those nanobots inside you now that you will never be able to return to normal. Leon was speechless. Were there really nanobots moving inside him right now? What were they doing? Now, listen to me, the nanobots themselves will not harm you now that you've taken those pills. They were given some very simple instructions and are following them and should follow them for many more years to come. Louis moved back towards Leon. The nanobots were designed to maintain your body as you grew accustomed to using a higher capacity of your brain at any given time. In fact, they were built to help improve the internals of your body so you'd be able to handle the faster reflexes and signal impulses. What does that have to do with me not being able to turn back to normal? Asked Leon, although he had a bad feeling he knew the answer. These nanobots were designed to keep you healthy and because of that have been instructed to attack and remove quite a lot of different material. Louis explained. That includes nearly every known medicine. In short, you should not become sick ever again. However, no medicine will have any effect on you either. It is for that reason that no modern science will be able to return you to normal. But, what about surgery? Leon cried. Surely I could be made back into my former self through surgery? Renee began hugging Leon again. Leon, Louis sighed, the nanobots were programmed to maintain your body. While they will allow you to slowly grow older like a normal human being, they will not allow external changes like surgery as they are programmed to view any sort of damaging contact like that as a threat. Even if your entire appearance changed, the nanobots would have a backup of your old appearance and would restore it within a few days. It was over and Leon knew it. He finally understood why his parents were so shaken. There truly was no way for him to return to normal, medicine was ineffective and surgery was impossible. He was emotionally unstable and would have begun crying again if Renee hadn't been holding him so tightly. Pausing a moment to calm himself down, Leon knew he had one last question, at least for now. When I spoke to my dad, Leon said, he said that they would take good care of me. Who did he mean by they? Was he talking about you and Renee? With this, Louis grinned. Well, it's funny that you should mention that, he began. You see, like I said before, I had been assigned to you. That's still the case. In fact, you're pretty much stuck with me for a long, long time. With the fact that you turned out so successful compared to our other test subjects, I've received orders to continue monitoring your progress. So, does this mean you're going to follow me to college or something? Leon asked. I mean, I am going back to college, right? You will, eventually, Louis said hesitantly. I've already signed you up for something a little different right now. Leon was surprised. He hadn't expected to have anything forced upon him so soon after being transformed into a girl. Seeing as you're now a 15-year-old girl, Louis said, looking really uncomfortable, I thought the best way to monitor you would be to send you to an all-girls boarding school. Leon couldn't help it. After hearing this, he immediately burst into laughter. Ah ha ha, you're playing with me again, right? He said while wiping a tear from his eye. Send me, a guy, to an all-girls school? Heck, are there even any left in the United States? That sounds so foreign to me. I mean, only the weird people go to single-sex schools these days. Whack! Leon put his hands on top of his head. Renee had hit him. I'm going to that school too, you know, she shouted angrily. Don't you dare make fun of it. After all, we've already been assigned to be roommates. Leon looked back at Louis. You were serious? I can't go to an all-girls school. Yes, well, I'll leave you alone with Renee for a little while, Louis said quickly. Renee, I want you to help Leona prepare for her new life. She's going to need it. Wait, what did you call me? Leon shouted at Louis. But he was too late. The quirky doctor had already fled to the safety of anywhere that was not near Renee. Leon turned back to her and gulped. She had an odd grin on her face and he didn't like it. Don't worry, Leona. I think you'll find Louis and me to be family soon enough, Renee said with an odd twinkle in her eyes. Now, why don't I explain a little more about your future?